So I've logged in as an admin on the system. So this is an admin profile. What we will not be covering today is employee self-service, which is also possible to be used for putting data in terms of temporary data or variable data, as we like to call it. We will also not be taking into account things like costed payments and stuff like that. We would have another session to cover things like that. I believe the sound should be working. If you are still having a problem, please do let me know. We have changed the options here, so it should. Okay. Thank you very much. Fantastic. Thank you. For those who just joined in, we are covering the variable pay. Perhaps you might not have heard the very beginning of this. This is any kind of payment or deduction that will affect the employee for the paying period only. So your paying period could be a weekly cycle, or it could be a monthly cycle. It is just affecting that particular period in question only. It may happen again the next period, but we are only concerned with that particular period in question. Now, I've logged in as an admin. Again, I'm not considering employee self-service in this particular session. We would do that in another masterclass so that we can spend much more time with that. So this is just to focus on the variable side of the system. If you should pick any employee app, because the payment or deduction will go against an employee. So let's pick any employee app as an example. When you go to the people screen, you could also search for the employee on the top of the screen. Let's use Kelly as an example. Within the employee's record, on the left-hand side, you can go into pay and deduction, and then you have variable pay. Once you get to this screen, of course, if nothing has been put in there for the period, you'll find no data showing. Now, the reason why I'm stressing on the bit that it has to only do with this period is essentially to demonstrate that whatever you put on here, the next paying period, when you do your period end or your clear down, when you come back into this screen, you notice there's nothing there. So, for example, I'm currently in period 12. It's kind of the end of the tax year anyway. But once you move into the end of the tax year, we go to the next paying period. That's the next tax year. You notice that the screen will be cleared. So this particular screen will always be open for you to use fresh to start with, depending on whether you're paying on a monthly basis or a weekly basis. We also have what we call permanent pay, which is not the main focus, but it's quite helpful to demonstrate this so that you can see how it all works. Let's say this employee is supposed to have something like commission. And this commission amount, as you can see, this employee has been paid something in the past anyway, but we want to pay this employee a commission of £50 going forward. Now, the key word here is permanent. So let's just save that. Notice I have not put anything within the variable pay screen. I've just put the figure into the permanent side. If we should do a pay preview, which is a facility that Moorepay has given for you to be able to sort of demo what the employee's pay is going to look like. If we should do a quick calculate, what the system would do is that it will go through the employee pay screens and check if there's anything that needs to be paid over to the employee and automatically generate what the employee's pay is going to look like in the current paying period. Now, this is, of course, based on data that's been entered into the permanent screens and then the variable pay screen. So in here, in this example, you will notice that the employee £50 has shown up. The employee has got a salary, which is obviously fixed already, and then some salary sacrifice. That's not really the point, but this is what we want to stress on. So you can see the commission showing up here. Now, at this point in time, the system is considering this as something that needs to be paid going forward. What this means is that if I should leave that £50 within the permanent screens, carry out payroll, get employee paid, the next paying period, the £50 will come up again. Now, that is not my plan. My plan is to only pay the employee for one period. If that is the case, then you should be doing it in the variable pay screen, not in the permanent screens, because if you put anything in there, this will mean it will carry on being paid going forward. However, if I should go into the variable pay screen now, remember, I still have the permanent pay of £50 set against the employee. If I should go into the variable pay screen and I decide to use the same code, commission, now this is the point I'm trying to stress. And this time I'm saying 30 quid on that. Save that. So I've got 50 quid or £50 within the permanent side, and I've decided that in this period, I only want to pay the employee £30. Let's run that. Do a quick calculation. Now you notice that the system has ignored the £50. Why? Because the temporary screen or the variable pay screen is overriding it for this period. Now, this may never be something that anybody else may use, but it brings the point across very clearly that if you have anything within the temporary screens, i.e., the variable pay screen, it is meant for the paying period in question. So let's say, for example, this employee should have always been getting £50, but for some reason, this period, I want to only pay them 30. I don't need to delete the £50 because the £50 is still an instruction behind the scenes. I can just say to the system, for this period, pay this employee 30. The next paying period, it will go back to the 50 because the £50 is still an instruction behind the scenes to say that is what you should be paying going forward. And so that is just to make the point that when you do decide to use a variable pay screen, the idea is that it's for the paying period in question only. Now let's get rid of that. We don't really want this employee to be having £50 going forward. So I'll just remove that and then I can save the record. There's no £50 ongoing, it's only £30. And it makes absolutely no difference from this point of view when you run it, because again, the instruction is within the variable pay screen. And so hopefully I've demonstrated the importance of having the variable pay screen in there. Now, of course, you can pick any employee depending on what you're trying to do, and then put those figures against the employee, and of the system will use it for that paying period in question. Now, if you have a lot of employees to do this for, you may have the trouble of going from one employee to the other, one employee to the other, and that could take quite a lot of time. So we have designed all these options available behind the scenes to be able to do this in bulk. This is why there are other alternatives that we can really use when it comes to this. Now, before we jump into the alternatives available for you, just some few things to also consider. Let's consider some few things. If you are trying to use variable pay and you do not have the code already on there, that is a problem. That's something that our tech team would have to do for you. The properties of the code, like whether it is pensionable, taxable, earnable, all those things are done at the point of creating the code. If anything should change or you feel you need to change it, of course, you can reach out to your account manager or to your payroll consultant support team, and we will be happy to help you with it. So it's very important that you get the right code already in there to be able to use. So there are permanent side of the system, and then there's the temporary side of the system. The permanent side is just a fixed amount ongoing, the same thing being paid over and over and over again. Then we have the variable side, which is essentially for that paying period only. We'll take questions at the very end. I can see some questions coming through. I'm sure by the time we get there, some of these things will be answered. So, how would we be able to do this in bulk? Bear in mind that when it comes to variable pay, you can put in multiples. So currently, I've only got commission. I can decide to add something else. For those who are very new to the system, this is how you can read the screens. So you have the code number, you have the type of the code. So here, R is a rate code. A rate code basically means you are expected to put in the units. not values. So this is days. So I need to say something like 6 days rather than £60, for example. If you decide to use a deduction or a pay code, which we have used previously, something like a P, which is a pay code, let's use something like a bonus P. The system will ask you to put in a value. So here I can say something like £60. I can save that. If I'm trying to put in a deduction, something like net advance, let's find that. That's it. D, that's a deduction. Again, it's a value. Please note, you don't need to put a negative in front of this. If you do, in this example, it will pay the employee £20. The reason is quite simple. This code has been designed as a deduction, and so it becomes negative, negative, which turns out to be positive. The whole idea is to take it away from the employer. So don't put a negative unless you are trying to pay that out, which is not really the right way to do it. But negative, negative turns out to be positive for the employer that you save it. Now, whatever has been saved here will be used for payment for that particular period. If there's a reason for you to come and change anything, for example, you made a mistake or whatever, you can easily come in, select that code, edit the value, or just delete completely, and that will take that particular code off the screen. And with this functionality, you can also check what the pay is going to look like. There's a preview. Um, it can give you that sort of understanding of what it's going to look like. So you can put in figures in there and the system will work it out so that you know exactly what. So you can see the deduction here and it all works out to be that net pay in this example. So how do we do this in bulk? We have got two methods that the system can allow you to use. The first one is using what we call bulk timesheet. That you can find down here on the left hand side. Go into payroll and then you have bulk timesheet. Now bulk timesheet allows you to be able to upload multiple employees records against multiple codes without having to jump from one employee to the other as we did previously. Now, to be able to use this, you need to have what we call the bulk timesheet template. Now, the template essentially holds the information about the codes. For this demonstration, I'm going to assume that this template has already been done. Once I finish demonstrating how it works, I'll come back and then show you how to create the template for yourself. Now, this will help in the logic of understanding how this all works. So for now, just assume that template has already been done. It's ready to go. It's behind the scenes. You are good to go. Generate a new form. You can give the form a name. Let's just call this T1. You can call it whatever name, just making something up. Now here I've got the template. Again, I'm assuming the template has already been done. So I'll show you how I got this there. So for now, let me just select that. On this database, my name is Samson Fox. So whoever is doing this, your name will automatically pop up here. And as you can see, it is pulling up all my employees on this database. I could decide that I'm only doing this for a particular department. For example, I'm doing it for my design department, for example. That means it's only 6 employees that will come up if I go ahead with this. If you want the entire company coming up, just leave it all blank. You can go by cost center, pay points. Depending on how you do your costing, you can reduce things down that way. But let's just leave it for all employees in this case. Hit on save. So here I have my created form, T1. It could be any name. It's just up to you what you call it. This is when it's paying up to. And that's my name. That's the last update. And the current status is open. When we go for edit, here you can see the codes on the top. Now this is influenced by the templates I decided to use. I'll show you how to get those on the top there shortly. And then you can see here, I have the list of all the employees as I really wanted to have, because I decided not to restrict this. Let's use someone on here. Let's go with Jasmine. Hopefully, there's nothing against Jasmine in her records. Let's see. So here, as an example, let's say 78 for commission, and then let's say £80. 78 for bonus, £80 for commission. Notice all I've done is just to hit on save. I have not finalized this yet. Let's have a quick look at Jasmine's record. Now, this is a nice trick that you can know. Just right click. I don't want to move away from this screen, so I'm just going into another tab that will allow me to open another tab for the system. But if we go and look for Jasmine, hopefully there's nothing within Jasmine's record. I don't know, but let's check. So we are going to the employee screen, Jasmine. On the left-hand side, we're going to pay and deduction, variable pay. All right, there's nothing in here. So we have put the data in, but because we have not finalized, it hasn't gone into the employee screen yet. Of course, we can use multiple employees. I'm just using Jasmine as an example. Let's say we have entered whatever we want. We are happy to go ahead. We just click on finalize. You will notice that the form is now marked as imported. The option to edit is no longer available. If we go back to Jasmine's screen, still not there. Let's do a quick refresh. Here we go. So you can see the figures have pulled through into the employee screen. So the summary of this, the bulk timesheet is a proxy screen allowing you to have multiple employees against multiple codes, and whatever you put up against an employee is then pushed into that particular employee screen. The destination of the data will always be the variable pay screen. What that means is that if I made a mistake on the bulk timesheet, I can individually come into the employee screen and make a change against that. And whatever change I make against the employee, so long as I save it, that is what will be used to pay the employee, not what was originally on the bulk timesheet. So it is very possible for you to still come into the employee screen depending on what you have put in to override that information or even delete it if you don't want it. The whole idea of the bulk timesheet is to help you to be able to put multiple in at the same time. Now, how do we create the template to be able to use for the bulk timesheet? To do this, you go into admin on the left hand side, admin screens, go into payroll, and you are looking for bulk timesheet templates. If you have never created anything before, there'll be nothing here, or you have to just click on new, give it an ID. It could be letters, it could be numbers. It's completely up to you. Give it a description. Let me call this one special. You can call it whatever name you want. If you have got multiple companies like I do in my database, select the right company that you want to do this for. Now, these are optional. These do not necessarily need to be switched on. For example, if you switch this on, it will display the total number or the totals for that particular code in question. And so it's something like the total amount of bonus, the total amount of overtime and stuff like that. It doesn't change the value, it just displays the information on the screen and stuff like that. You don't need to have this because it doesn't really affect the outcome. It just shows you extra information on the screen. That's about it. We also have the option here for template type. Now, this necessarily doesn't change anything in the case that we are considering now, but in other respects, when it comes to things like employee self-service and stuff like that, this could matter. But for now, this would not make any difference. The key bit is this one, where we actually select the pay and deduction codes that we want to use. Of course, again, you can see P for payment and D for deductions, and you can see the type of code where it is a unit. It means, for example, in this case, we need to put in the number of days, the number of hours. This is a value, you put in exact value and stuff like that. So you get the information on the screen. This is where you then decide on what you want to choose. So, for example, I want overtime. I want, let's pick something else. Let's say expenses. Let's go with car allowance, and let's say bonus. You can have as many as you want. Of course, it's best to select what you use more frequently. Click on create, and here we go. We have got a new template created for ourselves, which we have decided to call special. You can call it whatever name you want. If we go back to payroll, our bulk timesheet, and let's generate a new one, and on generate, and this time we call it T2. Again, it's just a name. You can call it whatever name you want. If we use the drop down here, you can see the one we just created. Special is on here. Still, my name is here. You can see the options to narrow this down. Hit on save. And here we go. You can see the name, when it's paying up to. That's important. Who is the data entry person. And when you hit on edit, you get to see the codes on the top of the screen, just like we wanted. And so again, just like I demonstrated previously, this is where you put in the data depending on what you want. And once you are done with that, you hit on finalize and it goes into the individual employee screens. Now, some may find this still not enough. You may want to rather use a spreadsheet, in which case you have the option here to export on the line. So again, for you to use the option of exporting and importing back into the system, you would have to create this line first, then you'll be able to export it out. This comes out as a CSV, and in my case here is going to open in Excel. So let's open the file up. There it is, waiting for the screen to open up. Now, within Excel, you have the ability to be able to, of course, make any kind of, depending on your knowledge of Excel, you can do something like a VLOOKUP, push the data in the way you want, and then get your information out of the system. Seems like my Excel is playing up. Let me restart it here. Bear with me. I'll bring it back on screen shortly. There we go. Let me restart this. It's playing up. So let's open up the document. So wherever you have downloaded the document, just get a copy of it. So I'll open it up again. There we go. Make sure you work on this document as a CSV, not as a normal Excel file. So you can change the name, but make sure it's a CSV file. Now, depending on your knowledge of Excel, you can do stuff like VLOOKUP or whatever to get the data into the relevant screens. So let's say, for example, I just put some fictitious data in here just so that I can see figures going in. Let's put some bonus of £60, £70. And let me repeat the sequence. Again, just fictitious data so that I can see stuff in there. I'll save this as a CSV, not as a normal Excel file. And then back on the system, if we bring the Moorepay system up, here we go. Have import, browse for the file, pick the file wherever you have saved it locally on your system, validate. This will just double check if there are any errors with what you are looking to import into the system. If there are any errors, the system will let you know. As you can see here, I don't have any problems with this file. Everything is all good to go. So we go for import. Now, what the system is doing is pushing the data into the bulk timesheet, not yet directly into the employee screen. It's just pushing the data into the employee, um, into the bulk timesheet. If we click on finalize, this will push the data into the individual employee screens. Now, because I want to demonstrate this, I'm not going to click on finalize. Instead, I'll cancel this. And if we go back in and click on edit, you could see what we had on the spreadsheet all in here waiting. Of course, you can still override this because it hasn't been imported yet. Add data in. And then once you are done, you click on finalize, and this will push the data into the system. Now, some few things you have to know about how this all works. Now, let's use the employee. Let's go and pick an employee up and then demonstrate how this could affect the employee. Because I've seen that question there. Can you do this? Can you repeat the upload? Let's say let's use somebody like Suleiman. So if we go and have a quick check on this employee, currently there's no data within the employee screen. We decide to add code, let's say bonus, code number 215. We add a bonus of say 50 quid in there. This was done manually into the employee screen. However, on the bulk timesheet, let's get rid of this one. Let's generate a new one. Let's call this T3. Let's use a simple one. We can have everybody on, it's not a problem. Let's hit on save. If we edit this, remember you can export this out. I just decide to do this on screen. Suleiman, that's the one we are looking for. Let's switch this on. Let's look for Suleiman. That is the employee. And we can put in, let's say, £70 here for bonus. Okay. We can then decide that, yeah, we are all good. We can save it. And notice this employee already have £50. This could have been manually put in. It could have been a bulk timesheet input into the system. It doesn't really matter. The employee already has something in there. And I've decided to do another bulk timesheet into the system. So I hit on finalize in this case. So there's already a £50 in there, and I'm doing another bulk timesheet of £70 against the same code. It has been marked as imported. Go back into the employee screen, the same employee in question. If we do a quick refresh, notice it has added it on. So you have to be very careful when you are using a bulk timesheet. If that code has already been used within the employee's variable pay screen, anything else that you put on will be added on if it is against that same code. Of course, if I was doing something else like commission or staff, those would be another line on there. But if that same code is being used, because the bulk timesheet is always looking at the variable pay screen, it will add onto it. Now, I'll give you the pros and cons of this because somebody may be thinking, can I just delete it? Can I put in negative values? Can I do that? There's a better way of dealing with this. So, a quick recap based on where we have got to. You can individually pick the employee up, put your variable pay in there. We have already described what a variable pay is. You can put that in there. Individually against the employee. If you have got multiples to do, you can use a bulk timesheet. To use a bulk timesheet, you need to have the template in place. Once the template is there, you can either type the data on the system, which goes straight into the employee screen, or you could get the data exported out as a CSV, fill it in, and then import it back into the system. That is one option that you have. Now, the next option we have for bulk upload is what we call Mapper. Now, Mapper is found on the left-hand side here under admin. And then we have Mapper. Now, Mapper can do so much. However, in this particular training session, we are just going to focus on variable pay. The whole idea of Mapper is to get what we call a package or a template, fill it out with the necessary information based on that particular template selected or package, and then import the data into the system. So long as you follow the rules for that particular template, the system will be happy to take the data in. Now, this covers pretty much anything on the system. It covers both permanent, temporary data, HR data, and stuff like that. But in this particular training session, I'm just going to focus on the variable pay. So in this case, we go for the variable pay, click on next. Now, if I've never used this before, the way it works is that you need to have what we call a CSV format, what the system expects you to use to get the data into the system. Click on that, and that will give you a copy of it. If you have ever downloaded this, you don't need to download it over again, and I'll explain why. Now, if we try to open it up, hopefully Excel will work fine now. There we go. This format that comes out, you notice it's blank. All what the system has done is giving you the headings that it's expecting you to use. These are things that we would expect you to fill in and then get the data into the system. Now, you may be wondering, how would I know what to do with these? So what do I put in action? What do I put in here? What do I put in there? The system gives you some amount of help. So if we go back to front screen here, click on help. It then explains what you can do with this particular document. So under the action, so the action code, you can add, which is yes. You can update, you can delete, or you can add or update. Now the update basically adds on, but let's demonstrate this. So let's use this employee. So this employee already has a bonus of 120. I'm going to get rid of it. Let's delete it. So at this point, there's nothing in here. Let's refresh the screen just to be sure. There's nothing against this employee. Employee number 3020. So let's use a spreadsheet now. So on the spreadsheet, we want to add, which we are using the letter A, against company number 1, which is where my employee is. Employee number is 3020, I believe. The code we want to use is code number 215. So if you are not sure, you can always go back and then have a quick check of the codes that you have on the system. So you can go into the employee screen as an example, pretend as though you're adding that in, and then you find a list of all the code numbers here. So this is the one I'm trying to use, 215. It can't be anything that is on here. This is just an example. So let's just refresh this. We don't want to add anything yet on using this. We go back into the spreadsheet, and then we want to add an amount of £300. So of course we can do this for multiple employees. I'm just doing it for this employee as an example. That's all it is. You can repeat the same sequence for different employees, the same employees with different codes and so on and so forth. So let's just do this one. Again, you save this as a CSV. Now back on the system, we have the option to browse for the file wherever it is locally on your system. And that's the one I'm using. Validate. This will double check, make sure everything is good with the file that you are looking to import in. If there's a problem, you get a summary report. It tells you exactly what the issue is. In this case, all is good. Go back. The file is still in the memory, and I go for import. Now, there's a difference between the bulk timesheet. Here is going straight into the system. With the bulk timesheet, when we do the import, it goes first of all into the bulk timesheet, then you have to finalize. Here, once you click on import, it goes straight in. So let's do that. It confirms again that has been done. Let's go into the employee screen. Let's do a quick refresh. And there we go. So for that employee, Suleiman, you can see the amount in there. So what did we do with the spreadsheet? I mean, the spreadsheet was for let's get it back, was for adding the data into the employee screen. Now, let's change that to a U, which is update. Now, what the system would do if you should do this, let's see. So I'm using the same value. Let's go back. Let's browse for the file. Make sure you have got the latest one in memory. Let's do a quick validate just to make sure we haven't made a mistake with that form. It confirms everything is all good to go. And then import. Again, confirms that. Let's go back to the employee screen. Let's do a quick refresh. All this while you notice the system is letting you know you are importing data in using Mapper. So you get notifications to let you know data is being imported in, just in case you want to double check. However, you notice that the value has increased. So just like we saw with the bulk timesheet, using this over and over again, depending on the options selected, will get the data increase. So in this case, we are using U, which is increasing the value. Now, let's say we have made a mistake. We want to start afresh. We want to get rid of this. Now, this is where the mapper becomes shows a little bit more sort of ability. So here we change that to a D, which if you remember was a delete. We save this. We don't really want the value in there any longer. We come back out. Um, we pull the file back into memory. And we do a quick check. It's always good to do a validate just to make sure there are no issues before you actually go ahead. Import. And it confirms. Let's go back to employee screen. A quick refresh. It's gone. So you might have done a lot of input. You would know you have made a mistake. You want to restart, or you want to do that. You can just put a D on there. This would be the best way to really do it. Get rid of everything and then get a clean sheet and start afresh. Perhaps this is something that you may want to do, and it could be quite helpful depending on the situation that you find yourself in. If there is nothing in there, which is what the next option is there for. So if we look at the help, so we have looked at add. This will just add the stuff in there. Update will put if there is already data in there, it puts extra on. But if there is nothing and you are not sure because you are doing this for multiple employees, so for example, the employee do not already have anything on there. When you use update, it's not going to do anything. It's just going to fail. So in that case, it's best to use update or add. In which case, if there's no record, the system will add the record in. If there's already a record, it adds onto the record. There may be very few situations where you may want to do something like that. But in most cases, if there's something wrong, the best thing is to just start afresh, get rid of it, get a new spreadsheet, and then get it all in correctly the way you really want. So this gives you that flexibility to be able to do things like that. Let's go back to our agenda for today. We are about to run up now. So let's bring the screens up. So we have discussed what the variable pay is. We have taken into account how to make sure that we have the right codes in there, what the code is, what unit is, what the value is, how to be very aware of those things and how to use them. We have seen bulk timesheet. We have seen the mapper alternative, basically of putting multiple records in. Now, why would you use mapper or bulk timesheet? Is there something are there differences in there? Of course there are. What will be the pros and cons? This is what we want to discuss for the next 5 minutes, and then we'll just take some questions that you might have already typed in there, and then we'll see what we can cover within the time. So, pros and cons. The first one is that if you decide to use bulk timesheet, you will be stuck with the template that you are using in that particular instance. So if I bring that back, this is the mapper template. But if we should look at the other one, there's a bulk timesheet one. So in this case, I don't have any option than to use these codes based on the template selected. And so for the employee, I cannot, for example, have something like um, something else, I just type it in here, the system is going to refuse it because it is not part of the original template. Of course, you can go and edit the template, recreate the bulk timesheet, and then use it that way. But when you decide to use the bulk timesheet, then you are stuck with what is on here. And basically, that's the whole idea. These are the codes you use, so you want to use that. However, if you use the mapper one, you notice that it is open. So you can type whatever you want. So the employee number versus a code, employee number versus a code. When can this be useful? So for example, you have another system that generates the figures for you. Somebody may have a time and attendance system, or you may have an HR system that generate the figures for you. The key thing is that get the right code, get the employee number. The A's and the rest is quite easy to get in. This is quite easy to get in as well. Once those are in there, get the right values in. You can, again, depending on your knowledge of Excel and stuff, or your system can actually spit out this in a proper way for you. Just copy and paste, get the figures in there, and then you can push it into the system. I mean, nothing stops you from using the bulk timesheet that way as well, but this is much more open to be able to do anything. It's a bit more flexible in that respect. Why would you again not use bulk timesheet? The bulk timesheet is quite limited to what has been selected. So if you don't create another line, you will not be able to export it out. But in the case of Mapper, so long as you, for example, if I hand this document over to a manager and they fill it in, so long as they put it in the right fields, I can just come in and just import the data into the system. However, if I should give this to a manager, then I need to make sure I generate that line within the system so that I can import it into the system. Because without a line to be able to import the data, you will not be able to do that. So again, these are some of the pros and cons. But this obviously gives you much more information on the screen. You don't need to type employee numbers. You already have all those in there. You already have the right codes on the top. So there are some benefits of having this as well. And so depending on how you you want to use a system and your preference, these are open. As you can see, you can use all of them, or you can use one of them. You can go directly into the employee screen. My general advice is that if you have got less than 20, 40 entries to do in the period, you might as well just do it directly within the employee screen. That will save you time. But some people just prefer just to have this as a spreadsheet because they can see it on one screen. That's still fine. It's still up to you. If at the end of the day, this is going to save you some time and it's going to be more convenient for you, then that's fine. Just go ahead and use it. Okay, so because of our time, I'm just going to go through some questions now and see what has been put out there. So if you have a question, you can just put those in there. Now, please, we are discussing variable pay, and for the definition, this is just payment that will affect the employee for that paying period only. We are not discussing permanent payment, so we can do that on a different session. Actually, if you are interested, if I go back to the screens here, show you where we keep all the master classes. So this is on the Moorepay website, moorepay.co.uk. The site's name is the Moorepay Training Hub. On this page, when you scroll down, you find the master classes. that these are uploaded here. So if you wish to use Mappa to do permanent stuff and stuff like that, that is on there. You can take your time and watch that. So I will not attempt to answer those questions because it may just confuse some others on the system or on this particular call. We have quite a lot on here. We always encourage our customers to spend time when they are available to come and look at some of these things. So we are covering different things at different times to make it easy for anybody who wants to catch up to easily catch up on some of these things. So we do have videos. These are free of charge, so you can watch them as many times as you want. So I will try and avoid questions to do with permanent pay because those I have not covered in today's session. So I will not be answering those today. Let me go through. There are some few here. The ones that we cannot deal with straight away, we would respond back later. Again, if you are part of this session, you will receive a copy of this recording. Okay, I've got one. I'm not going to mention names because some may not like it. That's why I'll just read the question. I've got one which is from W. And she says, we are using your timesheet app, which will log our overtime. Where will I get those figures from each month? I'm not sure what you mean by timesheet app. We have not covered today employee self-service, which would mean that employees are actually putting the data in and then it's going to managers for approval because we do have different packages to cover those things. I have not covered any of those in this particular session. That is something we can cover. Again, we do have employee self-service on the website, which you can always go on to. So I'm not sure how to answer this because it depends on the service that you may be running with us. At the end of the day, if the workflow is completed for any variable pay, for example, overtime, it should then show up within employee screen under overtime, under the variable pay as overtime. How would we upload to salaries? Salaries are permanent staff, so we have not considered that here. Hourly pay rates. Again, rates are meant to be standardized against the employees' code. So those are again permanent staff. That is a different thing. We have not covered today. Is variable pay. Can we add permanent payments to an employee that? Let's have a look. Can we add a permanent payment to an employee that will be paid on quarterly basis? Again, I will not go too deep into this because this has to do with permanent payment. If your systems have been set to pay quarterly, then yes. Then of course you can add something in there under permanent and the system will handle it. But then again, we would have to dive a little bit deeper. And if you have any more questions, you can always raise that with your payroll consultant because it's again dependent on the service we are providing for you. I'm trying to stick to today's session. Can you do this for hours too? Delete if imported incorrectly. Yes. If imported anything you have imported which is incorrect, you can get rid of that line. Yes, depending on what you have imported in. So long as it's variable, and I've just used a variable pay template or package with Mappa, then yes, you can get rid of it. Is it possible to have codes both as permanent and variable? Yes. And so I demonstrated one now in the case of if you, I don't know when you joined, but earlier on in the session, I demonstrated one with an employee where we put in permanent payment for bonus. And then we again put that same code as a variable. And the whole point was to demonstrate that the variable will override the permanent for that period because the whole idea of the variable pay is to handle data for that period in question. The next period, that variable pay will be wiped down as part of your period end, and that screen will be cleared. And if there is information within the permanent side of the system, that will take over. Let's go back to the questions. Um, let's see. Make sure. Let's see. Somebody's asking about the times when we run these sessions. Um, it's going to be quite difficult to pick a particular day that would satisfy everyone. That is why we give the opportunity in case you cannot make it, you can still register. And once the session is done, you will get a copy of it. So you would always have access to our free sessions. Yeah, it's always going to be available for you to watch. Somebody was asking about the days that we do this because the days do not actually suit them. But once you register for the session, you will get a copy of the recording. Um, can we pull a report of the values imported? Yes, you can. So long as the values are within the employee's variable pay screen. On the left-hand side, you have got reports. There's a system-built report that you can run, which is variable pay reports here. And that will gives you the opportunity to run it for the current period and also run it for previous periods. Now, the important thing for our customers who are managed is that if you want the figures for the current period, make sure you run this before your lockdown. And so for those of our customers who run payroll for yourself, make sure you do this before you process payroll. So yes, it's possible for you to get the figures out. So for example, I'll leave this as a PDF. I'll run this. You can run it as a CSV if that's what you want, and you can get the figures out of the system. If you prefer to have it in a different way, go back to the training hub. You'll find how to use something like Extractor to generate the same thing in a different way if that's what you want. But we do have a very, very good reporting system behind the scenes that can get you all the figures that have gone into the employee's variable pay. Yes, you can get those results. So the masterclass is just supposed to be very focused. So I'm trying to keep the focus on what we have discussed today. Um, can you show us a failed summary report and how it will look like on the box screen? How much time do we have? Okay, let's attempt to do that very quickly. So let's go into payroll. Let's try and create one very quickly. So go into bulk timesheet, generate form. Let's call this test 111. Let's go with a template here. We don't care about all of that. We hit on save. I'm doing this very quickly. We decide to export this out. We can and we go in there. It comes out in Excel. It looks like that. And this is supposed to hold um, numbers in terms of value because you can see the pound sign. If I decide to put a Q in here and hit on save, um, we go back into the system. We decide to import the data in. We browse for the file. Wherever the file is on our system, we pick it up. We hit on validate. The system will just should be able to see. So let's crash it down now. Did we save that? Let's have a quick look. No, it didn't save. Let's try that again. Shut that down. Excel is playing up today. But what you will see under the summary report is an error to say line number, this is not working, and you need to put that right. So let's say something like, let's go with 0.111. Let's go with A here. Save again. Hopefully this will save. It didn't save the last time properly. But the whole idea is that if you validate and the system picks an error, it will let you know. If you try to import the data in, it will then flash it out and then show you that particular line in question. If you feel like the report is still not pulling up, please let us know. Raise it with your payroll consultant, because that is what the validate is supposed to do. It's supposed to give you the errors if there are any on there. The chances of errors really on this on these kind of things are very slim. So long as you have got an amount filled and you put the amount in. Of course, if you put in 1 million, it's going to pull in 1 million. If you put in £100, it's going to pull it. But what it will not do is put in something like letters and stuff like that. It's just going to fail on those ones. Um, oh, our time is up. Let me see if I can squeeze one more question in. Um, is there a case where it can be entered twice? I think we have covered multiple entries. Is this feature now working from natural HR? And yeah, this is why I'm trying to keep this thing very narrow, because we do provide other services to some other clients. Now, if you have what we call the all-in-one, which would hold, for those who know the back end stuff, natural. If you have the all-in-one, you can do what I've described here. That's very possible for you as well. You will still have the opportunity to go into the employee's variable pay screen and use that. However, if you are getting data pushed through from the natural system, or what we now call the all-in-one system, then those would automatically feed through. Things like time off and stuff like that automatically feed through. We have not covered that in this training session, so I will try not to talk too much about that. We can always discuss those ones. So you do have the opportunity to always feedback to us things that you want us to cover. If you don't find it on our website, and you want us to cover it, so again, the website is moorepay.co.uk, the Moorepay Training Hub. That's hyphens in between the words. And on this page at the very bottom, you find the masterclasses. Go through them. What you may be looking for might have already been covered. If you don't find anything that you want here, just reach out and we'll give you the necessary help that you need. All right, I've run over my time. I do apologize for those who need these times very specific. I will end it here. Thank you very much for spending your time with us today. The video recordings will be sent out to you and also be uploaded on this website in case you are looking for it later on during this week. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you. Bye bye.